I don't think God has any problem with you being blessed. It's where your heart is. Our heart was never just to go out and make money and let's become rich and do this and that. You can curse your future or you can bless your future. So be careful what you say.
I think we're supposed to say, you know what, I'm blessed, I'm strong, I'm healthy, I'm talented. I think you have to invite the right things into your life.
You know what? The power that's in you is greater than any power that's against you.
Well, I think in that case, God was saying, I am everything, because I am.
Right.
That's part of our message is, you don't know what, God's dream for your life is bigger than your own.
Joel Osteen stands on stage, smiling, polished, perfectly lit, welcoming tens of thousands with his signature blend of charm and optimism. To millions, he's the voice of faith, hope, and abundance. But behind the spotlight, behind the best-selling books and sold-out arenas, lies a story most people never hear. A story filled with rising wealth, growing doubt, and one moment that left the entire country asking, is this about God or just good business? From controversial beliefs to federal loan scandals and even a tragic shooting inside his megachurch, Joel Osteen's empire has become one of the most debated forces in modern religion. What started in a small feed store in Houston grew into a global media machine, one that now faces more questions than ever before. And what just happened at Lakewood Church has left even his most loyal followers shaken. Joel Osteen was born on March 5, 1963, in Houston, Texas, a city that would one day become the heart of his ministry. He grew up in a large family with 6 siblings, surrounded by a home life centered on church, faith, and tradition. But long before Joel took the stage, his father John Osteen was already on a spiritual path that changed everything. In 1958, after the birth of Joel's sister Lisa, who was born with severe disabilities, John and his wife Dodie turned toward faith healing and charismatic Christianity. That crisis of faith led them to break away from the Southern Baptist Church and found Lakewood Church just 1 year later. The location? A rundown feed store with only 234 seats. From those humble beginnings, something extraordinary began to grow. By the time Joel was a teenager, Lakewood had expanded into a church with over 5,000 members. Yet while his brothers and sisters found roles preaching or leading worship, Joel stayed in the shadows. He didn't crave attention. He liked the background, the lights, the cameras, the editing room. He was the quiet son helping build the church's television ministry, but he had no interest in being its voice. He wasn't ready, or so he thought. But everything was about to change with one unexpected moment that no one saw coming. Joel had spent nearly 2 decades working quietly behind the scenes. At just 19, he dropped out of college and threw himself into producing his father's sermons. He studied everything: camera angles, lighting, editing, making sure Lakewood Church looked as polished on screen as any big-budget television show. He never preached, never stepped into the spotlight. Even though his father often asked him to try, Joel always refused. He said he wasn't a preacher. His role, he believed, was to support the ministry, not lead it. But in January 1999, something shifted. Joel finally agreed to preach one Sunday. Just 6 days later, everything changed. His father, John Osteen, died of a sudden heart attack. Joel's first sermon became the last his father ever heard. And just like that, Joel was pushed into a role he never trained for. No seminary degree, no formal experience. Just a grieving son trying to lead a church of 6,000 people through heartbreak. Many doubted him. Critics called him unqualified, a television guy trying to fill a preacher's shoes. Even Joel felt unsure. But as he stood on that stage, something clicked. His message was simple, full of hope and encouragement. And people listened. Attendance didn't just hold steady, it grew. By 2004, Lakewood wasn't just surviving. It had become the largest church in America, drawing crowds of 25,000 to 30,000 every week. Joel didn't just step up. He transformed the entire landscape of American faith. Lakewood Church was booming, but Joel had a vision that went far beyond packed pews. He didn't just want to grow a congregation, he wanted to build a movement. And in 2003, that vision took on a bold new shape. Joel struck a deal with the city of Houston to lease the Compaq Center, a former NBA arena and once home to the Houston Rockets. It was a massive step for any church, transforming a 16,000-seat sports venue into a place of worship. The 30-year lease came with a $12 million price tag and the renovations were even more staggering. Lakewood spent nearly $95 million to remodel the space, adding classrooms, television studios, offices, and even waterfalls. That's over $150 million in today's money. People were stunned. For some, it felt like faith was becoming entertainment, but for others, it was a sign that something new was happening in American religion. The grand opening came in July 2005. Every seat was filled. Millions more watched from home. It was the biggest church moment the country had ever seen. But Joel wasn't done. He doubled the church's budget for television airtime. He booked primetime slots in major cities. His message was everywhere, on billboards, radio, and screens across the world. And the key? His message was always the same: short, uplifting, and easy to understand. No fire and brimstone, no talk of sin, just encouragement, success, and hope. And the numbers kept climbing. Lakewood became more than a church. It became a media empire. And Joel Osteen was its CEO. Behind the pulpit and positivity was a business operation unlike anything the religious world had seen. Joel Osteen's first book, Your Best Life Now, hit shelves in 2004. It wasn't expected to do much. He wasn't a celebrity. He was a preacher. But the book exploded. It sold over 1 million copies in just a few months and spent more than 200 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. In total, it moved more than 4 million copies worldwide. And it changed everything. Suddenly, Joel wasn't just a pastor. He was a best-selling author and motivational brand. He followed up with more books, over 15 in total, and 7 of them also became bestsellers. His 2005 book, Become a Better You Alone, earned him $13 million in royalties and advance money. But it didn't stop there. He launched a line of merchandise, clothes, CDs, devotionals, and gifts. Lakewood Church even operated a massive gift shop and online store where fans could buy Joel-branded inspiration. His speaking events were even bigger. Joel earned between $100,000 and $200,000 per appearance, packing out arenas not just in the U.S., but overseas as well. His Night of Hope Stadium tour became a global sensation. These events weren't just sermons. They felt like concerts, lights, music, energy, and of course, hope. Tickets weren't free either. Most cost around $15. But that didn't stop the crowds. In Miami alone, over 20,000 people packed in to hear him speak. What started his ministry had now become a multi-million-dollar enterprise, and all of it was carefully built around Joel's signature message: stay positive, trust God, and believe in your dreams. Behind the uplifting messages and massive crowds was a financial machine running on an entirely different level. Lakewood Church operated on an annual budget of nearly $90 million. That's more than some small cities. But when people began to examine where that money was going, the numbers told a different story. Only 1.3%, about $1.2 million, was used for missions and outreach. In contrast, over $25 million went toward television broadcasting, and another $31 million funded weekly services. The church also poured millions into administration, fundraising, and events. For critics, this breakdown confirmed their worst fears, that Lakewood wasn't focused on serving the poor or spreading the gospel, but on expanding its brand. And then came a moment that would turn public scrutiny into national outrage. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Lakewood applied for and received $4.4 million in federal Paycheck Protection Program loans, funds meant for struggling small businesses. This raised eyebrows instantly. Joel Osteen's church was bringing in tens of millions each year. Joel himself was estimated to be worth between $50 and $100 million. And yet, his church had taken taxpayer money in a crisis. Though Lakewood later returned the funds, the backlash had already spread. People asked, if faith was about trust and abundance, why did one of the richest churches in the country need emergency money? The incident sparked debates across news outlets and social media. And for many, it shifted their view of Joel Osteen, from pastor to businessman. Just as the dust from the loan scandal began to settle, another storm, this time a literal one, would reignite public outrage. In August 2017, Hurricane Harvey slammed into Houston, flooding neighborhoods, stranding families, and forcing thousands from their homes. As people searched desperately for shelter, all eyes turned to one building that stood dry and safe, Lakewood Church. With 16,000 seats, it could have become a sanctuary, but it wasn't. Lakewood posted online that it was inaccessible due to flooding. Yet local photos and videos told a different story. Streets around the church appeared dry. No visible flooding blocked its doors. The internet exploded. Hashtags like Open Lakewood Church began trending. Celebrities, activists, and angry citizens demanded answers. Why wasn't the city's largest church stepping up to help? For days, Joel Osteen stayed silent. Only after intense backlash did Lakewood finally open its doors. But for many, the delay was unforgivable. People remembered how fast smaller businesses had stepped up. One local furniture store opened immediately. Why not a church with a $90 million budget and a global platform? The Harvey incident didn't just hurt Lakewood's image, it marked a turning point. Joel's message of hope suddenly felt out of touch. Critics saw a pastor preaching abundance but showing hesitation in the face of real need. And for many followers, trust in the man they once looked up to had started to crack. Just when it seemed Lakewood had weathered its worst storms, a nightmare unfolded that left the entire community reeling. On February 11th, 2024, a woman named Janesse Yvonne Moreno walked into Lakewood Church carrying a rifle and her 7-year-old son. She claimed to have a bomb in her backpack. Then, without warning, she opened fire. Around 30 rounds were fired inside the church. One man was hit. Off-duty police working security returned fire and killed her on the spot. But in the chaos, her young son was also shot, once in the head. The horror didn't end there. The child, Samuel, had to undergo 2 emergency brain surgeries. Doctors removed part of his skull. For weeks, he was too fragile to even test for brain activity. His grandmother, a rabbi, shared gut-wrenching updates with the public. The story drew national headlines, but it also raised serious questions. How did a woman with a documented history of schizophrenia and past criminal behavior manage to bring a rifle into one of the largest churches in America? Where was the security? Why didn't red flags prevent this from ever happening? Critics pointed to the ease with which she walked into Lakewood, despite existing security protocols. Even though she was eventually stopped, it was already too late. The system failed, the church failed, and the community paid the price. Joel Osteen addressed the congregation. He prayed for the victims. He even prayed for the shooter. Some found comfort in his words. Others were outraged. They wanted accountability, not just hope. For many, it was the final fracture. The faith that had once drawn them in now felt dangerously unprotected. As the years passed and the controversies piled up, a deeper question began to form. Not just about Joel Osteen, but about the future of the church itself. Lakewood still attracted over 40,000 people every week, and millions more watched online. But beneath the surface, cracks were beginning to show, especially among the younger generation. Millennials and Gen Z weren't connecting the same way. Surveys showed only 16% of millennials and 15% of Gen Z attended church regularly, the lowest in American history. They weren't looking for stage lights, big buildings, or motivational speeches. They wanted realness, community, action. And for many, Lakewood's message of prosperity and positive thinking felt out of touch. Critics called it the cotton candy gospel, sweet and easy to digest, but lacking substance. They said it didn't teach sacrifice, grace, or the deeper struggles of faith. Even longtime followers started asking, if this is about Jesus, why does it feel so much like a business? The church's rare communion and baptism practices, along with its polished, television-friendly sermons, made some wonder if sacred traditions were being pushed aside. And while Joel said he didn't take a salary from Lakewood, his $10.5 million mansion and best-selling books told a different story. It all led to one uncomfortable question. When religion becomes entertainment, who is it really serving? Joel's message of positivity still reaches millions. But in a world searching for meaning, many now wonder if inspiration is enough, or if something deeper has been lost along the way. Joel Osteen built something few have ever achieved: a global platform, a massive following, and a message that uplifted millions. His journey from a quiet television producer to the face of America's largest church is nothing short of remarkable. But with that success came questions that still linger today. From money and media to theology and tragedy, the legacy of Joel Osteen is as complicated as it is powerful. Some see him as a beacon of light, a man who made faith more accessible and positive. Others view him as a symbol of everything wrong with modern religion: too wealthy, too polished, too detached. What can't be denied is the impact he's made. Joel changed the way people see church, leadership, and spirituality. But as more people seek something real, something raw, the glitter of the spotlight may not be enough. Maybe the real question isn't whether Joel Osteen lost his way. Maybe it's whether the church itself has lost its soul. If this video made you think, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We've got more stories coming your way that dive deep into the people, power, and controversies shaping our world.